It's Urban Yeti for Game Boy Advance.
What's that crazy sound?
It's Urban Yeti for Game Boy Advance. Get your own.
I guess I will. Urban Yeti is a 2002 Game Boy Advance title by Cave Plus Barn Studios. You might have noticed that it was, not sold in stores and was only available by call order. I don't know if being on store shelves would do much good for it, as the front cover is not very pleasing. Maybe the back is more enticing. Sound effects so realistic, you can almost taste the city. What's this, a real motion captured Yeti? Well, now I have to see this. Oh, that's great. No options. My favorite. No, please, you know better than me. Going back and forth on the menu makes these sounds? The intro gives us some context over these luscious pre-rendered backgrounds. Yetis have existed as myth for all of human history, but what if this whole time they walked among us? And would it not be natural for them to want the same things we do? Oh, is this like a Yeti's search for meaning and purpose? The time has come to find out. Urban Yeti, find a suitable mate. That's the point of the game. You're trying to fuck? Get ready to Yeti. The whole point of this game is to get some hot Yeti tail. The beginning of this game is very disorienting. It pretty much just hands you the objective, get laid, and tells you to figure it out. I play around with the controls for a bit, find the punch, and a yell button that drains my health. Oh, I guess that was a mating call button? More games should have one of those. Not to worry, there's a handy-dandy arrow to point us where we need to go. Are these the motion-captured Yeti animations I was promised? This might just be my emulation, but there's a ridiculous amount of screen tearing going on already. To get to the mainland and fuck, we need to cross a bridge, but there's a toll, so we need to get a job. But to get a job, we need to look for listings in a newspaper, so we find a newspaper, read the classifieds, and learn that there's an opening at the soup kitchen, but the soup kitchen doesn't open until 7:30 tomorrow because this game has a day, night, and real clock system, like Shenmue. So I have to wait for a few minutes for the next day to pass, during which I discover that the A and B buttons are left and right punch, respectively, like Tekken. It's been 5 minutes. Welcome to Urban Yeti. While I'm waiting around, I also find out that the human enemies can't be killed, just knocked away, and dying triggers Yeti Cam, which is actually a bird cam that happens to be circling my corpse. Credits? No. Something tells me this game has a terrible live system. Well, let's do that first part again. Navigating this game is really awkward and uncomfortable. You'll notice the sharp top-down perspective, multiple parallax scrolling layers, weird collision detection, and fast move speed make everything feel claustrophobic. It doesn't help that the sidewalks are not built to be Yeti inclusive, and it's really easy to get hit by a car. What? While I'm waiting, again, I explore a little and find a boombox. Apparently it can be used to restore health and trigger a dance party screen clear. I never found that, unfortunately, because you have to hit select to use it. Gee, if only there was another button that they could have used. At last, I managed to land a job at the soup kitchen. They're not paying me, so I have to rely on tips to raise the $4 I need. The game shifts from the open world gameplay to a tap-out style minigame. Each customer wants a certain food item, and you need to send it their way and collect the tips. It is needlessly difficult and stressful as the customers spawn randomly and at random speeds. So you can be deep into one aisle and Sonic the Hedgehog comes barreling down the opposite end of the screen. And you want to be aggressive and run down the aisle for a few reasons. 1, they tip more the earlier they get their food. 2, the physics and hit detection are really finicky, meaning you'll often miss them unless you're direct. And 3, if they don't get their food, they storm the counter and knock you on your ass. That's right, the low-income patrons of this soup kitchen are dangerous and to be feared by commoners. Also, they steal each other's tips? Was this made by like a rich oligarch as propaganda? After a few failed attempts, I get my $4 and race across the bridge. You know, if I'm going to be beating up the homeless and throwing police officers off of buildings, why do I care about abiding by toll laws? In any event, now that we're in the city, we can sniff our Yeti love. Time to approach the... That's not a Yeti, babe. That's your competition. You just kind of wail on the other Yeti for a bit in this alley until he's beaten and admits defeat. But before he goes, he promises to show us up at the Yeti discus tournament, then hitches a ride on a nearby car. There's a speedrun of this game at AGDQ by PeteDorr where this car gets into an accident and soft locks the game, forcing him to restart.
Oh no, he got into an accident? Okay, this has never happened. This has never happened. Oh wait! Come on, car! Free him!
That didn't happen to me. Instead, a completely different lock occurred. Your next goal is to chase after the car he escaped. Oh, killed by dogs. And that was my last life, booting me to the title screen. Great. Well, at least I can continue. Oh. Just as I feared. 3 lives, no continues, restart from the beginning. It's like I'm playing an NES game. You know, there's also birds in this game who can poop on you as an attack. That's also like a weirdly NES thing, isn't it? Alright, back to where we were. What was he talking about? Soft lock? I'm looking for the car, but there's very little in the way of discernible landmarks. The most I have to go off of is the arrow. I get stuck on this rooftop and can't go down the ramp, so I try every button and learn that R lowers me. It kind of acts as a climb up or climb down button, but it never really comes into play. Also, you might have noticed the weird sprite scaling the game does to make the vertical 2D parallax thing work. And when you get to the top level the game uses and go up at all, it really has a field day. I find the car and don't really know what to do, so I give it a punch and activate the Yeti mobile alert. What, does he own it? Dispatch the saucer. What does that mean? Whoa. And then it picks you up and starts carrying you somewhere? You just keep going until... What? What? Wait, what? Did it just fucking... What? There's a bug that can happen in this scripted sequence that just crashes the game. More of a hard lock than a soft one, I suppose. What I did to trigger it, I do not know. I can't find other recorded instances of this happening. PeteDorr doesn't mention it as a possibility during his run. I guess I just got unlucky. Thankfully, there's a GameFAQs guide that has all the passwords in addition to a walkthrough. Shout out WasabiX. This is where I learned that the scream move is not, in fact, a mating call, but a full-screen death yell attack. It just so happened that the first time I used it, the female Yeti cry played almost immediately after. While the saucer is carrying you, you can just mash on the R button and it does something. I guess that took us to the Yeti Discus tournament, even though we touched down in this random spot. This is the minigame section for this map, and much like the last one, it's got an element of fun, but is tuned to be so annoying and hard that it loses whatever charm it could have had. The goal is to have every other Yeti knocked out at once, and you can only take 3 hits per round. There are 10 rounds. Maybe that doesn't seem like much, but the AI can turn on sniper mode in the later stages of the game. Again, this isn't terrible. The sliding and shooting and physics bouncing the puck around is kind of cool, but the controls are a little stiff. Like, you can't shoot diagonal unless you're moving kind of thing. And just like the rest of the game, losing one round sends you back to the start. Losing all your credits boots you to the beginning of the game entirely. There's just too much tension. I found myself less enjoying the mechanics and more praying that the AI was merciful enough to let me hit them. Also, not to rag on the lore, but isn't it a little strange that in a world where Yetis are these secret oppressed creatures, they have a whole discus tournament with their name on it? Unless it's some sort of underground league, or just segregated. Once we've won the tournament, a bird flies in and delivers a love note. A female Yeti has noticed our skill at discus and wants us to swing by her chicken ranch in the suburbs. Before we can go, we need to take care of some protesters. Yes, protesters. They scatter when you sock one of them in the face, reinforcing negative stereotypes about Yetis, no doubt. But as they're running, you hear them say that the lower subway to the suburbs is out of order. The solution? Flip a switch up above. Easy as ouch. Okay. The rail is electrified. Maybe I can climb up to a nearby building and drop down on the other side. Nope. Animal abuse. You have to pick up a cat and hurl it at the switch, and in its desperate attempt to avoid the electrified rail, it will flip it and presumably be trapped there until it gives out from exhaustion and slips from the lever to its death. Now we need to catch the train that runs in this underground tunnel. Before we move on, I wanted to point out the music in this game. It's surprisingly not terrible. Mostly fast-paced, almost industrial noise rock. Nothing so good I'd listen to it in my spare time, but for the chaotic tone this game has, it's pretty fitting. This next section is a sewer level. Oh boy. Holy shit. This is one of the most disastrous songs I've ever heard in a game. It sounds like it's bad on purpose. The trombone playing random notes out of step with the beat, the way every instrument seems to be speeding up and slowing down as if it's lagging, and that melody. There are just some places a MIDI trombone should not go. And it doesn't help that this is the worst part of the game. Yeah, usually sewer levels are bad because they're overly mazy or repetitive. This one's bad for completely unique reasons. You're on an inner tube floating down the raw sewage, lovely, attempting to steer and propel your way to the end. There are so many hazards along the way, and the collision detection is so jank that you end up taking damage and smacking into things if you try to go even a little fast. There's downright unpolished feeling aspects, like the fact that the sound effect keeps playing every second you're touching this banner. These snakes home in on you so fast that you're basically guaranteed to hit every single one. Power-ups are often placed right in front of literal death traps like this alligator, which will kill one of your tubes instantly. Unlike the other minigames, which are pretty tight but held back by being overly punishing, this is just unfun. You're encouraged to take it as slowly as possible. It's boring and repetitive. The main gameplay does not make you feel rewarded for learning the mechanics, it just makes you relieved for surviving. And to really cap it all off, it gives you a full health refill literally inches away from the end. Is this like a meta game design joke? Well, we're out of the sewers and into the suburbs. Time to find our Yeti love. We make our way to the ranch? This looks like an apartment building. But we're too stinky smelly from the sewer. So you run to the other side of town and these kids hose you down. The children are too innocent, too pure. So we're clean, looking good, time to go to her house. Before we can smash, her chickens have escaped and we need to bring them home. This is the most hectic part of the game and the AI is more aggressive than ever. The back of the box boasts an impressive 100 HPL, which is on full display here. Thankfully, actually catching the chickens isn't too much of a headache. It's more a game of patience and following the arrow while trying not to get shot. Once all 8 chickens are returned, you enter what should be the final challenge to prove your love for her. Toss 30 chickens into a meat grinder and turn them into sausages. Okay. This minigame is actually pretty easy. You can control the strength of your shot, but really it's best to just run up to the wall and tap the A button. You'll get it every time. Are you serious? The biggest annoyance is that the pathing of the chickens and roosters is random, so somebody's in my spot sometimes. With a little more patience, you slaughter, process, and package 30 chickens. And finally, you are the champion. You've won her hot Yeti breath on your gorilla Yeti cock. Good. Oh, and a mega dance party.
So this record is in honor of
the Yeti.
Shout out to his family.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. I have a dream.
Yeah, that was it. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to complete, and that includes a couple of restarts and a hard crash. They sold this for $30. There is a little more, like a free play mode that lets you load in whatever map you want, and a spectator setting, although it really just changes what your perspective character is. It doesn't even give you control over them. Urban Yeti is a bad game, but I kind of like it. It feels like a game whose development process was completely different from any other studio, as if they started with the idea of an urban Yeti and then asked, what would he want? What would he have to overcome in order to get that? Not starting with any set genre or gameplay hook. The context for what's happening is very silly and weird, but at no point did it feel forced. In fact, it flows in a very organic way from one beat to the next. That's its greatest strength, in my opinion, and also the biggest missed opportunity because it just ends. If you look on the back of the box, there's a blurb about having multiple ways to play, smashing your way through the city or going stealth. There's nothing resembling that in the finished game. I can imagine a version of Urban Yeti that was much more fleshed out and had more development time and budget. This game is often compared to GTA 1 and 2. What if it had an open world like that, kind of what they went for in the finished game, but with actual interconnected areas where you sort of tried to stealth from one location to another as the game naturally pushed you through. The locations in the open world could be like where you did these mini games and there would be more of them, and because the game isn't so short, you would actually be able to not make them so punishing. As it is, the ideas are surprisingly good, just half-cooked, practically rare. Despite being both of your face buttons and a shoulder button, combat is only necessary once. The mechanic of climbing up and down buildings or hitching rides on cars is never really used except for navigation. Sometimes, I didn't even mention it because it never comes up. This is on top of the game already being full of janky collision and sprite scaling. It just has such a strange energy in it. The only way I can describe it is like, it's like, you know, Country Justice, Revenge of the Rednecks?
I'm still moving from before the cutscene started. Dragging the car away. I need the catapult to blow up the nuclear waste plant.
Like, suck the marrow out of that game and inject it into a GBA cartridge. That made sense to someone. You know, now that I look on the back of the box, there's a lot more weird stuff. Like, this screenshot in the middle is not in the game. It looks like an early version of the inner tube section, on a river instead of a sewer, and with a different health bar. Actually, the top and bottom screenshots both look slightly different from the final game. The IGN review, which is just glowing, also has a bunch of screenshots of earlier builds. Looks like there were a few different versions of the HUD, including one that used the Yeti's head as a health indicator. Some of these textures look completely different. There's even rough versions of all the minigames. Let's check out that commercial again.
What's that crazy?
Trademarks of Run and Gun Inc. Run and Gun has a weird history. They started out making TV spots on MTV for the satirical cult Church of the Subgenius in the early 90s.
There is a simple answer, dear friend. A glowing beacon of slack amidst the turmoil and darkness. It's J.R. Bob Dobbs, the living slack master, and his Church of the Subgenius.
They're from Chicago and focused on ads for a few years. They also did the music video for I'll Stick Around by the Foo Fighters. By 1994-ish, they wanted to expand into video games and produced some 3D animations for a VR developer called V-Ream. No thanks. After that, they set their sights on the soon-to-be-dead FMV market by developing for the 3DO. That's so sad. They started development on a title called Duelin' Firemen, which was eventually cancelled. There's a fantastic write-up about their whole history on the Bad Game Hall of Fame that goes into way more detail. What the author concludes is that they just couldn't pull enough gameplay concepts together here to make a cohesive product. Kinda reminds me of something. A few years later, the director Grady Sain took all of the footage they had and put it together into what he called the Sundance trailer. It never played at Sundance. Duelin' Firemen looks like the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen, and I know I say that a lot, but this channel takes me places I didn't expect to go. Like, it's just...
You think you know what I'm talking about, but you and I know that they don't know.
David Young. No. Tony Gould. Tony Hawk.
You got a little piece of chicken on your face.
Say what?
It stars Rudy Ray Moore.
When it comes down to video games, baby, I'm the best. Yeah!
And there's Tony Hawk and Devo. Oh god, I forgot about the Devo thing. Okay, we'll talk about that one another time. Basically, Run and Gun got put on ice after Duelin' Firemen, and the same creative team founded Cave Plus Barn Studios. Their first game was Tom and Jerry: The Magic Ring, which seemingly reviewed fine. Their next title was Urban Yeti, which was first revealed in an IGN article published on September 10th, 2001. God damn it, I can't get away from 9/11! The reason the game was only sold through phone orders was likely because of their publisher, Telegames, who you might know, or not know, as the people who thought it was a good idea to publish fucking Atari 2600 games in the 80s. Yeah, shocker, they did basically nothing as a publisher and didn't advertise or even distribute the game. this scrappy little team wasn't going to take that lying down, so they did what they did best. Made a weird ad and offered the game by call order. Perhaps stamping the ad with run and gun was a statement of ownership. They were proud of this thing they'd made. And you know what? After learning about all that, I think I have a little more respect for this game. I still think it's bad. I don't like it, and I'll probably never play it again, but it was theirs. Unashamedly. There's one last thing I still can't wrap my head around, though. The back of the box and their horrible website claims they used a real motion-captured Yeti for their animations. Well, where's the Yeti? Because if he's real, and he does mocap, I'd like to know. But where do I turn? Who do I go to for answers?
You must fight to fulfill your ancient destiny. Now, get ready to
Wait.
Call 1-877-GET-YETI or visit...
Of course.
This call may be recorded for quality assurance. We have a special promotion today for select callers. If you are over 50, please press 1 now. If not, press 2.
Thank you for your help with our survey.
That was it. What? They just hung up on me.
If you are over 50, please press 1 now. If not, press 2. Thank you for calling the Medical Alert Center. This is Jessica on a recorded line. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hi. I had some questions.
Great. So, with our promotion today, you actually have the opportunity to receive a free medical alert device. So, congratulations.
Oh,
you know, it's that button you wear around your neck that you press in case of an emergency or even a fall. Now, when you're participating in our monitoring program, you actually can get your medical alert absolutely free. So,
no, I'm sorry, ma'am, you don't understand. Ma'am, you don't understand. Can I talk for a sec? Can I talk for a second? 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 Ma'am, I'm gonna have to talk for a second. Ma'am, I want to know where you got the Yeti.
So, let's go ahead and get you some more info on it, okay?
I want to know where you got the Yeti.
I'm sorry, you've reached the Medical Alert Center. Unfortunately, we're unable to assist you any further, but,
I'm looking for Urban Yeti.
Here comes a daredevil.
Hey, well, I've got you guys. I wanted to let you know that on New Year's Eve, I'm doing a combined New Year's plus 21st birthday countdown stream. So come check it out. It's going to be fun. All right? Have a good one.
Game over.